Hello, friends. This is Alina Holmquist, Business Manager. I just want to give you an overview of the budget and discuss some budget reports. And here's the agenda for what we're going to cover. I'm going to start you off with the district budget cycle. Again, this is the cycle for adopting all of our funds, our general fund and our smaller funds. And it really starts in January. So I'm going to start you over here on the right-hand side with Analyze. In January, we're doing our enrollment projections for the next budget. We're in the current year, we're starting to get the state allocations based on actual, because prior to January, we're working off of budgeted numbers in the current year. Now in March, we start developing the budget. This is after the legislative session has concluded and we have some information about what we need to do. We also get our tool from OSPI to help predict the revenues. So we start doing our revenue expenditure projections. We start getting closer on our staffing projections. We're going to start getting your input, especially programs and departments that don't have a dedicated funding source that are part of basic ed and just the district-wide support. We're going to have a more formal process starting in like February, March to get input on the budget. You know, by May, we're actually finishing the budgets for the smaller funds. And so ASB will be reaching out to you probably, you know, right after spring break saying, hey, we're going to need your information in early May to make that happen for the board. Now we have some legal requirements before we can adopt the budget. In August, we have to provide a notice in a newspaper for 2 weeks. We have to hold a public hearing before the board can officially adopt the budgets in August. And then we have to send some reports to the ESD and OSPI to make it official. And really, then after the budget's all adopted, starting in the beginning of the school year in September, that's when we're really implementing. We're trying to see, you know, what actually happened in comparison to the budget. And for a couple of months, we're actually working off of budget figures rather than actual from the state. So an important thing to know is that our budgets are based on a fiscal year, and our fiscal year runs September 1 through August 31st. It is not the school year, which is September through June, and it is not the calendar year, which is January through December. We use those years for other things, but not for the budget. And once that expenditure budget is adopted by the board, we need to stay within that budget. The budget cannot be exceeded unless we have a budget extension adopted prior to exceeding the budget. And so we have some of the same hoops to jump through for a budget extension as we do for adopting the budget. So it takes a little bit of time to do that. Some things that can affect your budget are prepaids and accruals. Basically, prepaids are a future expenditure. It is pushing the expenditure forward. Usually, these are things that are paid for in April through August, but it actually benefits the next school year. So it's pushing the expenditure into the year that will benefit. For example, consumables like a big paper order. If you bought a bunch of paper to be delivered at the end of August, well, that's really for the next school year. And so that expenditure needs to go to the next school year. Same with subscriptions that represent most of next year, if not all of next year. They need to be charged to next year. Now, accruals are a prior expenditure, so they are pushing the expenditures backwards. These are things that you pay for in September, but it actually benefits the prior school year because maybe you received it prior to the end of August, but you got the bill and paid the bill in September. For example, non-consumable items that you're going to have for more than a year, like furniture. Say those are delivered before the end of August, so before August 31st, and maybe work that is done before the end of August, August 31st. Well, those things need to be charged to the prior fiscal year, regardless of when that is paid. We provide budget expenditures reports, but it's important for you to understand the timing, so when they can be run and what they mean. At the end of the month, the majority of the expenditures are posted. We have 2 AP runs a month, and they align with the board meetings on the second and fourth Wednesday of the month. We also process payroll at the end of the month. So really by the end of the month, you can run a budget expenditure report and have most of the expenditures there. However, it does take time to actually close the month, and the month isn't closed until the second board meeting of the next month. We need time to receive the county treasurer's report, which is basically our bank statement, and we don't get that till mid-month, and we need time to reconcile to the county treasurer report, process any internal billings and external billings, make corrections, and adjust budgets. Therefore, it takes a little bit of time. Now, monthly reports will always be in your Google Budget folder. Let me know if you need the link to that and I can resend it. So when I close the month each time, I'm going to put the monthly report into that Google folder. And carryover requests, those are really due in early June. In the past, we've been able to request more than 5%, and going forward, we will likely be holding to the 5%, but that's going to depend on a lot of factors like enrollment and our growth. The fiscal year is closed in October. Our fiscal year ends in August. However, it takes a lot of time to close the fiscal year end. Therefore, the August, September, and October reports are usually delayed. You will receive preliminary budgets in late September, and at that time, we're still working off of budgeted enrollment, and a lot of times your budget's going to be close to what you had in the prior year. And then the final budgets will be provided in late October. We need to get the October 1 enrollment, and we need to have the true carryover figures and fines and fees from the previous year to be able to finalize your budget. Things that can adjust your budgets, those would be budget transfers. Basically, you are redistributing the budget that you have. It doesn't increase your budget, it just moves it around. And we have a budget transfer request form on our employee resources webpage for that. I would love to get that process automated, so maybe that's something we'll explore. Then quarterly, we review your donations, gifts, and commission revenue. And those types of things do increase your budget. If you let me know what budget you'd like increased, I will do that. And if you don't, I will default to your holding account. And there is a gifts, donations request form out on our employee resources website for you to use. We do prefer that for budget transfers and donations that you use the forms with the principal's approval. However, if we're in a bind, we'll also take an email with the principal copied on that. There is a building budget reconciliation worksheet out on the Google Budget folder as well. I like to call it the BBR. And what that does is it takes your original building budget and shows you all the transactions that got you to the revised budget that shows on your building budget expenditure reports. Now, if you don't want to run a report to review expenditures, you can use the chart of accounts. This is real-time data as POs are approved and expenditures are entered. Now, to access the chart of accounts, you need to go to Skyward, Financial Management, Account Master, and Chart of Accounts, and you can see a little visual here. Once you get to the chart of accounts, then you need to go to the bottom right and enter the full account code. So that's 10E530 program code, activity code for your search. Here's a visual of what it looks like when you get to the chart of accounts. It's important that you check the top to make sure you're on the correct fiscal year, and you can change that fiscal year and go back and look at prior year's data. You definitely want to make sure that your view is correct, that you're looking at the revenue expenditure view. Now, what I like to do once I get on the account code that I'm after is scroll down and actually expand on some of those carrots. So you can see the detail account activity. Well, if you expand that carrot, do view, and keep expanding the carrot, you will see all the details for each payment or each expenditure. I also like to use the purchase orders using this account. Now, it's not as good as running the open PO report, but you can expand and see the POs that you are using. And I like to use it for just quick data. So we do provide a ton of budgetary data mining reports. You have access to run the same reports that I do at any time. I only provide the reports to give you a report to reconcile to, just to make sure that we match, because account code clearance and access can sometimes skew the data. So it's important that those are periodically reconciled. It's also important that the reports are run and reviewed on a regular basis and discussed with your administrator. So to access the budgetary data mining reports, you go to Skyward Financial Management, Account Management Reporting, Budgetary Data Mining. And up on the top right, once you get to all your reports, you can clone the reports to use them for other purposes, or you can just print the reports into PDF, or you can run reports in Excel. So all business office professionals have these building budget reports in the general fund. I want to draw attention to the building expenditure history report. So once the building budgets have been updated for the new fiscal year, you can run this report to allocate your budget like an initial budget transfer. We actually don't spend a lot of time allocating your budget, except in a very few areas, like collective bargaining agreement commitments, library commitments. We try to make sure that the account code and budget are correct in those areas. But honestly, we're all working off the bottom line budget. However, you might want to be more specific with your budget, and this is a tool that you can use. And then we created the building MTSS expenditure detail report. So in 2021-22 and 2022-23, this is a special designation in support of the MTSS process and tiered interventions for our students. And so you can run this report to see how much you've spent for a given date range. And I'll just reiterate that any of these reports can be run in Excel, and the reports can be cloned and modified for other purposes. We have also cloned and created some ASB budgetary data mining, thanks to Kim Lilsgar. All business secretaries also have access to these ASB reports, and there's some details. And as always, please let us know if you have questions or you need help with anything. Thank you so much.